President has been known for these gaps for his entire career.
Right.
And one of the criticisms is his team does not put him out enough. Maybe it's because of what he says, but from a policy perspective, he has gotten so much more done than most people ever thought. So should they say, this is who he is, and put him out there?
I think so. Yeah, I think that. I mean, let me. I mean, I have, as you like, I worked for Hillary Clinton. I lived through Jim Comey's July press conference, where same kind of situation as the Hur report. I lived through the Comey letter, so I got a lot to say about how you deal with what Hur did. But let's look at just how the president handled last night. Okay, so yesterday afternoon he did that statement. The House Democratic Caucus. I thought that was great. Super smart. Get him on camera. Hur is not on camera. He's, and he's doing all the pushback he wants. That was great. They made the decision to put him out last night. A lot of people Monday morning quarterbacking that, whatever. I hate Monday morning quarterback. Been done to me a lot. But they decided to put him out a second time. He does great in the press conference. What does he show you? He shows you, he's like feisty and fighting with the press. Some people think that's great. Some people don't. He was clearly in command of the facts. He understood exactly what was in the report. He had a good pushback. It was great. And then he took he should just, Mr. President, walk out the door. Just stop. Walk out the door.
Stayed at the party too long.
Stayed at the party too long. And then he has the gaffe. Joe Biden knows who the president of Egypt is, and he knows who the president of Mexico is, right? He knows that. I'm not sure that Donald Trump knows the difference between Iran and Iraq. But, it is a gaffe. It happens. If we see him a lot, then then any one gaffe is not going to be as big of a deal. So I think the problem, I think the situation they're in now, they need to put him out more. The older he is, the more he has to show he can do the job. And let us see some gaffes, fine. But and then any one is not as big of a deal as this one was last night.
It was never more important for him last night not to have a gaffe.
I know.
Because it was specifically to deal with this report that mentioned that he was not having the same memory.
Yeah, but I would own the gaffe. If I was him or advising his team, I would say, yes, I made gaffes. And I made gaffes when I brought the Inflation Reduction Bill through. I made gaffes when I did the infrastructure bill. I made gaffes when I cut black unemployment in half. I own it. Turn it around on them. And I think that, and then I would go after her. Because why would her even ask him the date of his son's death? What does that have to do with classified documents?
It shows it was a setup from the start.
But you need to say that. What I'm saying is I would have gone right after him. Yes, I might have messed up my son's death day because I was so stunned this guy would ask me something that was so painful to me. My mother died 12 years ago. A guy comes in and asks me a question about this, that, or the other with whatever I'm doing. And then he says, what date did your mother die? And I'm supposed to shoot that back. I mean, they need to confront the absolute intention of this guy to do what he's doing.
It's a really good strategy, and it also reflects the reality that everybody knows Joe Biden is 81, right? So there's no hiding from that. There's no spinning away from that fact. And so how do you own it, right? How do you lean into the idea? It's funny, right? Trump gets away with being like normal people. That's the sort of storytelling that he brings to his campaign.
He keeps it real, they say.
What's more normal than getting a geopolitical fact wrong, right? Common people can see themselves in these factual missteps that don't actually reflect a larger cognitive inability. Now, I think this metaphor, right, that is pretty persuasively been used is, who do you want flying the plane? And if you're Joe Biden, I think you want to invoke, in this branding, storytelling way, Sully Sullenberger, another older gentleman who pulled off a miracle on the Hudson. And you want Donald Trump to be the guy in Con Air, right? It's a plane of psychopaths. You can be on the plane that's scary for a while, or the plane that feels like it's a actual supermax prison. Which one do you want? It's about how do you own who you are and what your actual gift is.
And you want the guy that can land the plane. And you show, I landed the plane. This guy denied a pandemic was coming, fought with Dr. Fauci, told you to take bleach. And yes, I'm 81 years old. I was 78 when you voted for me. You didn't think I was going to make it? I mean, let's be straight up with the public and deal with it that way. And by the way, if Donald Trump, in my opinion, God forbid, becomes president, He'll be 80 during the term. So
okay,
what
that's
the other part.
They're
right.
essentially the same age. These guys were in high school at the same time. And the report did say Joe Biden is a well-meaning elderly. Both men are elderly and have problems remembering things. But well-meaning is the point. How is it that Donald Trump seems to just gain more support from his base when you think about who out there is saying a guy with 91 charges against him, right? A massive business fraud case that he has been found guilty of, and I haven't even brought up E. Jean Carroll. But doesn't well-meaning carry any weight here?
I don't know. I think that we are in a different political world. I think that, you know, it's very difficult to define, I think, what it is that the body politic of Americans is right now. What is it that makes you believe in the future? What is it that makes you believe in someone? What is it that makes you believe in your own condition, in the American dream? I mean, all of these things have changed, and it's a new world, which I think is not a particularly pretty one in politics. It just isn't.
You were just in Nevada. You're talking to focus groups. How do people see these candidates?
I went to a, it's just like so great to get out of, you know, like actually go talk to people. I saw 2 focus groups of Hispanic men ages 23 to 35. These are people who voted for Biden or are unenthusiastic about him now.
Why? Why are they unenthusiastic?
They thought that
Reverend Al just rattled off an extraordinary list of accomplishments.
So the good news for the Biden campaign is they think that they said, it's just interesting to me, because these were non-college men who said they don't pay a lot of attention to politics and then spewed out a lot of information about politics. And they said...
Was it true information?
Yeah. Well, mostly. But they said that when he ran in 20... he had a plan for all of these things he was going to do. So that was interesting to me, like that broke through in whatever medium they're following. And most of these guys are just like on TikTok, and that's like where they get news. And they listen to podcasts. They listen to Joe Rogan. They listen to Candace Owens.
So it's English mostly or English only?
Yeah, it was English mostly. Huh. Yeah, actually it was. But they said that he was going to do a lot, and then he didn't do anything, and he's old. And they didn't have any awareness of the things that he did. Now, I've pushed on this with researchers, and they're like, well, I'm not sure if Bush, like, oh my gosh, y'all.
You forgot.
Oh my gosh, I called him Bush.
You've got a memory problem.
I have a memory problem. I'm 67 years old. It's time to roll it up. He said that they not sure if the accomplishments are going to mean much to them, but, I've seen the accomplishments that the president is rattling off in Black America that I think are probably starting to take hold about low unemployment and the wealth gap getting smaller. Stuff that I think if they knew what he had done, they would be in a better position. They hate Trump. I was concerned that they were going to be like, oh, well, he's strong. And they do say, when you ask for adjectives, say, what do you think of Trump? Strong. But discriminatory, and that really animated the young men. They really don't like him.
Against us. The thing that President Biden did my syndicated radio show on Martin Luther King holiday, and he ran down the list and more of what I just said.
President Biden did?
Yeah,
so for people out there who say President Biden doesn't speak to the media, there you go. Martin Luther King weekend, within the last month, he spoke to the Reverend Al. There you have it.
And he rattled off all the things I mentioned earlier. And some more. The callers started calling and saying, yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't understand it. I think the messaging has to be there. The other thing that I would do is I would say, I did these things, the things I listed. I've been in here 3 years. I've cut unemployment. I've done this. I've done that. He was there 4 years. Tell me, Latino America, tell me, Black America, what you got from him. And let him answer that. There is not one thing I could think of, and I lead a national civil rights group, that I could even dream of saying that Donald Trump did for Black America. Make him say it. Here's my record. He's been there for. We have a unique opportunity of
They're
two
both
presidents
incumbents
that have both served.
Yeah, they're both incumbents.
Let's compare the records.
Why do you think it's so difficult for that message to get out?
Because they're not putting it out. Why is it difficult to hear a television that's off? You need to turn the TV on.
Isn't there something?
But Jose, that's also, I'm sorry, because of news deserts in this country. That is also because the media has become so fragmented. And every day, local newspapers are closing. We are seeing local TV media outlets getting taken over by right-wing organizations. And so people aren't hearing the news. I live here in New York, and when I even see my own extended family on weekends, the news that they're consuming has nothing, isn't even related to fact.
Back to the new world.
Yes, exactly.
People are also consuming in it.
I also think that we underrate sometimes simplicity in favor of complexity, because complexity, when you have a lot of good things, seems very attractive.
Right.
I'm going to convey to you multiple points on this legal pad.
This is a problem with Democrats and being so overly sensitive and wanting to make sure they include every possible human and every possible perspective. They don't get to the punchline.
Yes, Steph. So, Steph, I know that you you judge high school debates sometimes.
Thank you very much. I do. Thank you.
But a lesson I learned doing high school debate, which was eye-opening to me, this nerd who was trying to make a million points, speaking very quickly, was people are going to take away one or two things from an hour of just listening to you. And so what is the one? So Trump is great at this. He's great. Trump, by the way, is basically a sports talk radio host. He will hammer the same argument every day, and he will say, we're going to make America great, and the border, and it's just like you can recite his takes. Yeah. With Biden, there isn't that deliberate simplicity, because maybe it feels beneath somebody who actually has many things to celebrate, but like, I don't know, pick a couple and just say those over and over again.
Yeah, I don't know that much about football, but I do know Stephen A. Smith hates the Dallas Cowboys.
Correct.
So when people get asked about how they feel about the economy, in our minds, is that question really, how do you feel about life? How do you feel about everything? Because the economy, if you look at the data, is actually doing really well. But there are lots of other reasons why people don't feel great. People are disconnected. They're not going to the office. We know absenteeism in schools is soaring. We're polarized in our politics, in the news we watch, in the teams we support. So how is it that when people say, I don't feel great about the economy, are they really saying, man, I'm just not that optimistic these days? Rev, what do you think this is about?
I think it goes to what we were talking about earlier, messaging. One, inflation has gone down, but the prices have not. Mm-hmm. And I think rather than come with this great economic Paul Krugman analysis,
look at you.
We've got to really explain to people what's going on and, again, compare it. He said, and I agree with him, you have to keep it simplistic. Well, the reason Donald Trump is good at being simplistic is he is simplistic. I mean, that's not a strategy. That's him.
Yep.
If you asked him about
no other choice.
This is a guy that when he sat in a forum and they asked him his favorite Bible verse, he said all of them because he doesn't know one. And Joe Biden sometimes is too smart and policy wonk for his own good. You've got to put it in phrases that people understand. Of course you don't feel good about the economy because the prices are up. But let me tell you what we've done with inflation. And you've got to do it in ways people understand it. And Trump will just give you one line and keep going.
But isn't that amazing, right? People will say, like, he's good for the economy, he's good for business. He did an interview this week talking about supply chain and turned to the interviewer and said, you know about supply chains, don't you? And the interviewer sat there.
Right. There is
change. I mean, are you kidding me? But right, he's good for the economy.
When it comes to the mood, though, there is also something when we talk about messaging with just like acknowledging and not trying to convince people that they don't feel the way they feel. Right? So, like, take it for granted on some level, right? The hardest thing to do, I think, is emotionally rewire someone. But I'm actually curious, Jennifer, what do you do, right? You have a set of facts that indicate you should not feel this way. You have a set of feelings that are clearly the way you feel. I feel like you need to meet people where they are, but how do you possibly do
Those
both?
are also valid feelings. If you go to a concert, if you go to a sporting event, if you go out to dinner, all those things are very expensive. Yeah. And those are things that should give us joy.
They are, yeah. And so I think part of the problem is that because prices have not come down. And they're not going to come down. My understanding from Paul Krugman, no, actually it was Steve Ratner, that it takes 2 years for people sort of bake in their expectations about prices. And 2 years is going to be the fall. So hopefully by the fall, people will be used to prices being where they are. Because
interest rates,
they're not going
to. Key here is interest rates. Inflation, as the rep is saying, are going down. Prices aren't going down. Interest rates are extremely high. They shot up in just 1 year. Can I just...
And when people talk about the economic policy of Biden, they think he controls interest rates. Yeah.
I will tell you that, in my life, in my experience, one of my dearest friends, Luis, who works in a shipbuilding in South Florida, He told me just about 4 months ago, it's something that kept me up at night seeing how we could help. He said, my efficiency, my apartment, I've been paying $900 a month at. It's a very small one room. Yes. And the landlord came and told me this month, it's going to be $1,800 next month. Take it or leave. This is a place where it got termites. All his furniture got eaten. He had to buy furniture again. That guy is looking at an uncertain future, and that guy cares, and that guy works, and that guy has an American dream. And when he doesn't know the facts and the statistics, and Rev, I know you know so many people like that, that just feel in their bones that their future and the passion and the commitment for the American dream is getting more and more difficult. That you can't put numbers on, that you can't define in GDP. The economic news every week seems to be getting better in the United States.
But it doesn't feel good for those people.
But Luis hurts.
And that is why I think what the president could do about it is he could be more optimistic on behalf of the American people and tell them, reassure them, you got your family through COVID. Only in America could we come out as the strongest economy in the world because of what you did and how hard you worked. And put it so, because I think people are also just freaked out and very uncertain.
100%.
And that would, and I think if you're like, oh, right, yeah, we did do this, we did come out this, and put it in the terms of, reflect good things about their life, I think that would also, and that's what presidents should do. Like, you got to lead, you got to be careful about where they are, meet people where they are, but then you got to bring them somewhere where they feel optimistic about what's coming.
Now, do we have to remind people so much of what we're experiencing, especially economically, is because we're living in a post-COVID environment, right? That's why interest rates shut up. And where we were 3 years ago was an absolute disaster.
No, I think we have to remind them and I agree with her, that we have to remind them that you all worked with me to bring us out of this. Remember where we were, and we together, and I want to finish the job because of the guy ahead of me is who helped put us here. Here was a guy for months denying a pandemic was coming. We can't give him the wheel back. He's the one that drove us over the cliff. Remind people. I would have commercials with him with the bleach. I mean, you got to tell people where we were, and you gave me the chance that we're driving out of this together, and I want to finish the trip.
Pablo, weigh in on this, because when it comes to COVID, people actually will credit President Trump with those stimulus checks. However, it was Nancy Pelosi that drove that. Trump was clever enough to put his name on them. The only thing he didn't put was his face. But he continues to get credit for that COVID aid that Republicans signed on to begrudgingly.
Yeah, we have run an unprecedented and vast psychological experiment where we are figuring out not just how do people react when there's a pandemic and everything shuts down, but what do we retain from that time, right? What do we remember? And it's shocking how little, collectively, I count myself in this population, we forget. And so how do you remind people of, and I think this is the key feeling, the feeling of utter chaos, of like, we don't know, like there's an ambient feeling right now of just total anything can happen. One of these feelings that I think is just, maybe it's late capitalism, maybe it's just 2024, maybe it's all of these factors combined. It's the premise of, our institutions are not actually going to catch us. So who do we trust? What do we trust? Our optimism is just non-existent. So you asked earlier about, like, what does it mean to be well-meaning? I think there's some untapped potential in being well-meaning, which Joe Biden, I think, palpably is. Maybe persuasively he could do better at it, but also strong. Like, Trump is constantly projecting strength and authority, even in the absence of evidence.
Yes,
that
but that strength is like Biff from Back to the Future versus Marty McFly. And if you saw that movie, remember what happened to Biff?
But so here's the terrifying thing. There are way too many people who look at Biff and they think, that strong man might take care of me. So,
until he gets a truck of manure dumped on his head, and Marty McFly gets the girl.
And so I agree when the metaphor.
He laughs, but that's what I
the metaphor
was modeled on Trump.
A car, a plane, a hoverboard, right? What's going to spiral wildly out of control? I think Trump needs to be framed as the man who is he's an unprecedented force of chaos. And if you want anything resembling something like sanity and predictability, you kind of want the well-meaning grandpa who might actually take the wheel back and know what to do with it.
And redefine what is strength. Grandpa was strong.
Rebranded,
Grandpa
yes.
is strong. And this guy, oh, you talking about the strong guy with 91 felony charges? You talking about the strong guy that's going from one court to the next? That's not strong. He's a bully. And all of us have known bullies in our lives. And what are we saying to our kids? Another ad I would do is, what are we saying to our kids? I have one grandchild. Do I want him to grow up and think that the measure of power and success is to catch 4 cases and to be going from court to court? I mean, what are we saying to America that American excellence means now?